Okay, so welcome to our spring concert for the orchestra department. There's two ensembles you're going to hear tonight. These folks, the Period 6 Baroque Strings Orchestra, and then the Period 7 Advanced Orchestra, or with the winds we call them the Symphony Orchestra. Each of them is doing the same thing tonight. They are playing, we call it your ISPA program. ISPA is slang for Indiana State School Music Association. Both groups have contest adjudications coming up. These folks have theirs this coming Friday. The Period 7 folks have theirs a week from this coming Friday. So there's four purposes to this concert. One is to give everybody a tune-up performance on their contest tunes. Two is for us to honor our seniors and make sure that they are well recognized before they play their last ever performance in this hall. Three, oh boy. Three is a surprise. I don't get to tell you about it yet. No, you'll see. It's a legit surprise. And then four, I'll just have to tell you when it comes back. I had this all worked out. Now, first of all, I need to know, did my two friends make it here, Kathy Johnson and Susan Pfeiffer? Aha, I see them. All right, in my line of work, it's important to remember the people who really worked hard in this profession. They gave their entire lives to music, to string playing, and to music education, and they made a lot of kids' lives better as a result of that. And two of the greatest proponents of that are over there where I'm being blinded by this light. Kathy Johnson, who many of you know from her recent connections to Mini Orchestra, and she used to be my teaching colleague at Highland Hills Middle School, and for years she did the New Albany High School Orchestra, is here this evening. Can we have a warm welcome for Kathy? And seated next to Kathy is Susan Pfeiffer, who I think they used to call James Brown the hardest working man in show business. I don't know that he gets to cling to that. I think Susan Pfeiffer is the hardest working person in show business. For over 50 years, she worked with the youth orchestra, with the mini orchestra, with Scribner Middle School's orchestra, with Floyd Central Junior and Senior High's orchestras back in the day when this was a consolidated 7 through 12 building. And her entire life has been dedicated to working with young string players, and she still comes out and supports the program at concerts whenever she can. And I can't think of a person that I respect more in this line of work than Susan. We have a warm welcome for Susan Pfeiffer. Now, cool thing, we're playing three pieces in our ISPA program. A gavotte by J.S. Bach from one of his French suites for keyboard, reimagined for orchestra, and then a piece that I'm sure, if you've ever been to a wedding in your life, you're going to recognize, and then two movements from this lovely medieval suite of dances by Eric Iwaza. Now, the reason I mention this is that the J.S. Bach piece is a newly composed thing that Kathy Johnson herself did, so we'll be opening to that piece at contest this Friday, and really proud of Kathy and the work that she has done and continues to do in creating new works for young orchestras. So typically the way this works is when you play the piece, if the composer or arrangement is in the audience, the conductor finds out ahead of time. You see how I did that? And then I'll point to her and we will give her a round of applause as well. So this is our ISSMA program. The next piece that we play is actually two movements of a suite. So it's going to sound like two short pieces of movement, two short pieces of music. Don't feel obligated to applaud in between. Treat it like one big piece of music. And then at the end of our performance, we need to stick around just a bit on stage to get our, if I can call it this, our team picture taken for the year. So I'm assuming we have a man with a camera in the balcony? Yeah. All right. I didn't dream about this. This is exactly what happened. Not a problem. Solved. So, as I said, one of the things that we're going to be doing tonight is recognizing our graduating seniors in the string section and the wind section of our orchestra. So, to make sure that this goes as seamlessly as possible, I'm going to tell everybody how this will work. I will be reading your names. When you hear your name, you will come to the front and you will stand across the arc of the stage here. Stand still, because a young person is going to try to aim for a flower. Aim for a flower. Make sure the flower goes back to your seat with you. You will be tempted, when your kid's name is read, to burst into spontaneous applause in the sheer joy of your child's musicianship, and the fact that it might be an empty nest. Probably not true, probably not. But hold that thought. Let us save our applause at the end of all the student announcements so that everyone receives their enthusiastic use of applause at the end. Not if that all makes sense. And so it begins. The string player seniors are, I believe, in alphabetical order by last name. So when your name is read, walk to the front, stand there. Javier Acut. Abigail Berger. Also, like, stand on your side of the thing because we have two squad elders doing things. Sophie Busick. Carter Bowling. Connor Bretthauer, Brooke Bryant, Lacey Cobb, Rowan Deming, Eva Duncan, Tyler Harris, Lincoln Hill, Enrique Ibarra, Catherine Kraft, Isabella Lannon, Mariana Mori Ordaz, Hope Periago, Ethan Radcliffe, Emma Rose, Daniel Sanchez Hunt, Olivia Suling, Molly Spitznagel, Tara Srinivasan, Will Trask. Moving into our wind and percussion players, Sam Blank, Jace Johnson, Gabe Kemmel, Shayla Lawali, Peyton Lee, Elizabeth LeBeau, Brooke Lee, Tyler Mitchell, Ryan Panozzo, Addison Roughton, Hikari Shiga, Ben Sprigler. Anybody left? Did we get it? Looks like a win. All right, before we, everybody squeeze in. Javier, get closer to Eva. If you have to step on the podium, do it. Squeeze. Now, you probably can't say, man, that's fine. I'm not the important person right now. These kids are. If you could see past them, you'd see a huge hole in the orchestra. And that is how you build great organizations with great senior leadership, with people that have the persistence to stick around when it would probably be a lot easier to do other things or to do nothing at all. And instead, they stay and they bless their colleagues with their gifts, their industry, their talents, and their willingness to show the way to others. Now, if you're a parent of one of these children, let's just say part of this honor goes to you for making sure your child shows up at lessons, at band practice, at orchestra rehearsals, at constant night rehearsals and ISMA events. If you're a parent of a wind player, I could go a long way talking about the number of marching band things that you have to do, but you know that. And this is your opportunity to look at your child and think, ha, I did a good thing. Okay? These people on this stage have been part of multiple state finals performances in every conceivable discipline for more years than I want to think about. And that kind of leadership and that kind of consistent pursuit of musical excellence is deserving of our respect. So, ladies and gentlemen, can we show our appreciation to the class of 2025? Somebody with a high-quality camera, get a picture of this lineup of people, and then email it to me so that I have documentation of this. We got it? All right, seniors, if you will very slowly turn around and very carefully make your way back to your seats. And remember, everything on this stage is expensive. So this is the surprise part. You didn't even know you were going to be part of such a thing. Not only are these folks graduating and moving on to their next thing, somebody super important to all of us is also graduating and moving on to the next thing. Although in her case, I think they call this retiring. Helen Bohannon, could you come up here, please? I know you're here. I saw you. There she is. Okay, good. Helen Bohannon, I'm going to read you. Helen Bohannon is a 1982 performance graduate from the IU Jacobs School of Music at IU in Bloomington, Indiana. She studied violin with renowned artists such as James Buswell IV, Miriam Fried, Greg Fulkerson, and Stanley Ritchie for Baroque violin. Helen has performed with the faculty of the Eastman School of Music and is a member and soloist of the Owensboro Symphony Orchestra. She's performed as an auxiliary member of the Louisville Orchestra, including their triumphant 1989 tour to Carnegie Hall. Helen was the concertmaster for the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary Orchestra in Louisville, Kentucky for 15 years and held that position for 17 years for the IU Southeast Orchestra, as well as 4 years with the Jewish Community Center Orchestra. She is retired after 30 years as an adjunct faculty instructor for violin and viola from the music department at IU Southeast. Plus performed recitals and conducted the IU Southeast Orchestra during their 1997 concert season. Helen has also been a co-director for the Floyd County Youth Symphony for the past 13 years. She conducted all of the FCYS orchestras at some point, including the Festival Orchestra for 7 years, their Philharmonic Orchestra for 5 years, and currently the Mini Orchestra. In addition to the school year, Helen was a 5-year faculty member in the 90s at the Maple Mountain Music Institute in Kentucky and a conductor and chamber music coach at the IU Southeast Music Department Summer String Clinic for several years in the early 2000s. It doesn't say this, but she also built that summer festival at IU Southeast and made it go. She was a guiding force. For many years, Helen was the sight reading judge for the Jefferson County Schools for their orchestra competitions and judged at the KMEA Jefferson County Solo and Ensemble competitions in Louisville. Now we get to the important part. She has been the violin sectional coach for both the New Albany High School and Floyd Central High School orchestras for over 30 years. That's why she's here right now. As a founding member and first violinist for Classical Choice Strings, Helen has performed weddings and events throughout Louisville and Southern Indiana for over 30 years. She's played in the pit for musicals in the Kentuckiana area, Derby Dinner Playhouse, Iroquois Amphitheater, Providence High School, New Albany High School, and Floyd Central High School. Since 1996, Helen has been the music director at Grace Lutheran Church in New Albany, Indiana. At Grace Lutheran, she conducts the adult choir, the children's choir for their Christmas programs, their praise and worship ensembles, the GLC Orchestra, and their handbells group. Helen will retire from that position at Grace Lutheran Church at the end of July 2025. Now, because this is a slightly dated bio, it neglects to mention that in 2025, the Indiana chapter of the American String Teachers Association selected her as their Indiana Studio Teacher of the Year for the work that she's done teaching private lessons to hundreds and hundreds of students over the years. Now, Helen has been an integral part of what we do here at Floyd Central for a long, long time. You don't replace people like Helen, you just hope that the next person is somewhere vaguely near as good as she was. And Helen is, at the end of this year, retiring to move to Nashville area to be with her kids and grandkids. She leaves a legacy of incredible excellence. Now, to talk about that legacy some, one of our musicians has put together a testimonial, and Olivia Suling is going to talk for a bit.
Hello, I'm Olivia. I'm one of the first violins. Miss Bohannon has been so much more than just an instructor. She's been a mentor, a guide, and a constant source of encouragement. Her patience, passion for music, and genuine care made every sectional something I look forward to every Monday. Her support has shaped not just our playing, but who we are as people. We will miss her deeply and will always carry her lessons and kindness with us, both in music and in. Thank you so much.
Now, those are all great, cool, wonderful things, and we front-loaded all of that because it's very important to Mr. Shepard and myself that we get an accurate timing of boom, the contest program starts, boom, the contest program is over. So from here on in, all you're going to get is music. So, like they say in the movies, buckle your seatbelt. Now, we've been sitting for just a little bit, so just 2 A's, one for all the winds, one for all the strings, and we'll get this thing started, okay? on cut time, you can purchase your senior table spots on cut time. Next announcement. We are hosting ISSMA's district contest this coming Friday and Saturday for all the bands, orchestras, and choirs that are not trying to go to a state final. So a lot of the non-group one or just entering group one ensembles are there. We still need 15 more adult volunteers for various spots at this. Judging from that roaring standing ovation, you parents love this work your kids are doing. This would be a nice way to show your support and love for them and all of their long-suffering teachers by giving us just a little of your time this weekend. So please check on the what's it called? Survey Monkey. Is that it? Sign up genius. That's it. Sign up genius. And give us a little of your time, please. Mrs. Spitznagel wanted me to say if you're connected with this group here, the state finals are coming up a week from this weekend. We will need a few more volunteers for chaperoning, stage crew setup, etc. That's what be on the lookout for a message about that. Now, if you'll be just a little bit patient with us, we'll get our group picture taken. Dan, do you want to be there?